session will be centered on the university campus of Taraba. I really here I am asking where even former minister, I timelines are big, but I think where they are trying to problem like let's say in agreement of if this time again we barrier and the consultants that we always recommend the position of the reform always one. And I'm suggesting to at least hire in local internal consultants that better guide in direct. But looking at the funds that we have given, will be now that we are in 20 years, commodity cost and the labor cost might not be. And this is what is entrepreneurial can keep down at the but in congestion in class to university, which I was a victim of. And again, I the university was this. Have you factored the transportation students from over Paraguay for taking into locally the transportation flow? In fact, from Florida to Paraguay, the transportation the food was started in the university. Not enough. Yes, the concerns are very genuine. And just yesterday, I received the contractor. I reaffirmed what I told him and the letter that he wrote, because we do not want to go back. We wanted to put it in writing that we cannot go beyond. So that tomorrow, if the default, we use that. We also went there. Because we saw the work roughly 45% done, and yesterday he promised once again that they will really deliver within the time. And for us, once these ones are delivered, because these are those of you who know UTG. UTG, there are two main BPA and arts and science. You address their problem, you address UTG problem. And on top of that, you add education, ITC, and then the life. So the major problems are the beauty of it also is that Faraba, everybody has his own faculty, his own auditorium, his own classrooms, and so on. Like not like what happened now, where you share, you go around and whatever. Everybody, they will have enough. So we made that arrangement with them. And the funding part also, that's for lot 2. Yes, that one is IDB and BADIA, 7 million from IDB and 50 million from BADIA. But that one, as I said, it will come to you for application before we'll start. But that one, it will take 18 months. That's why we talk about 2020. But this one, the funding is there. What they will normally use is because of delays here and there, they need to be paid. I said that one, there was an agreement that says that you have the financial muscle to go ahead And even if there's something that we will pay you after, but you cannot use that against the company. We will not use it. And we will do everything possible because failure to do so is going to create a lot of. Right now, there's no space at UTC. Anything we are renting at now, main hall, GTMI hall, and Emujan Theatre. That's millions. Just to rent. Brikama, we want to rent, but there's nowhere. You see, you have the money to rent, but there's nowhere. And it tells you that there's a big problem that we need to address. So the transportation also, it is factored in. That one to really work on it. Right now, they have 8 buses, but some have some breakdown. They will need to really address those issues. And it will be shuttling between Faraba and Brikama. But in the long run, because the transportation issue will be minimized, because there's also the conditional package as a third category. The conditional package was originally to build dormitories and other facilities within campus, and that is through loans and so. But as a ministry now, we decided we don't think it would be good for this country for us to go for a loan for the dormitories. We want to go for a PPP, okay? Invite the private sector. But strategically, as a ministry, we're going to give preference to social security for the dormitories. We have the designs, we show them the plans and so on. But if they agree, they can build. And where they stop, we now extend it to the private sector for them also to build. We will now negotiate with them, and they will have a reasonable price for the students to stay and use. That's what happens in other countries. And up to a particular a certain number of years, then now the building will belong to the University of Ghana. Because the perimeters are so local community without notice that this is diverse. Some of the people who get into their family, getting them elderly people's family, whole family. Some people say, no, you might not go. Let's might where the university. So I think the ministry should focus on demarcation boundary, clearly show it is in point of the local decide. And these are their funds, and they've never been compensated, they've never been approached to the form of the government. That's part of the land, the Ministry of Higher Education. And the support, sometimes your government elect the building, in the midst of the cash farm, they will be fighting with farmers, under here and there. All these things are exposed, intentionally by the people of that area. They might not even live. You have this university. It's better. Now it's talking. Yes. You know our problems now. Somehow, hopefully, with all these stakeholders, to make sure that you engage the community and show them what the university wants in their
I think we did that last year. We had a meeting with the community. This people were there. So I think the fiscal planning also happened. The only problem is we never prevent encouragement on lesson until you fence it, because people have guts in this country. As long as there's a piece of land, they can go and sell. By the time you realize you have bought your graveyard.
The issue is now that there's university around that end, everybody is rushing.
Interested.
Interested you on radio. One of the estate
selling university land.
Telling them that you can buy land from us. You see, it's just next to the university. You just cross the road and you enter the university. That's how we, and they were still saying. But interestingly, it was inside the university. So these are some of the challenges. But we will continue engaging the local community.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The moment you pass this, the first thing that catches my eye is letter F. That is, your ministry plan is to construct, skill centers in every region. And when actually our region, that is CRR North, you all know that all the regions have it except CRR North. And the other time, my people, I think they sent a letter, that maybe PS might be aware of that. We have a land in Same, that is RSK camp is there. So I want your ministry with the other executive to come together and see how best you can turn that place to a skill center whereby the youths in Sierra North can learn a skill there, because the structures are there already. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's what I want. Yeah.
I just want to tell that this is very, for us to be taking note, and as I said, we will come to that one because it's part of our plan.
Okay.
And all regions need to be careful. And we, especially Sierra, it's a special program.
Yeah.
It's different from other regions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sierra must hit the gap.
We want, you see the
we are ready for that. We are ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
And just like what you said along those lines, we have a lot of construction going on around this part. Even in my own area, there's also another camp. But you have to fight it.
Yes. That's why I said you have to.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry for coming late. I know I communicated. I also have an engagement. It's indeed great to higher education. Although a seasonal professor at the university, when we are there, it was a tough time. Even classroom size, a whole lot of things was a problem. I think gradually they're improving, though there's still room of improvement. I have two main issues. One at the higher education at the university, and the other one at Tibet. I've seen also this Al Hikmah University for female. I think it's around Talending. Not long ago, I think three weeks ago, I visited the university, but they had a lot of crying that they were asking for. Before the then government, they were given the full license to operate. They did a whole lot of programs, and a whole lot of graduates have also graduated in that university. But of recent, when the change took over around 2016, 2017, the Minister of Higher Education had to review, the lancing. So this rendered some of those university students who have already graduated certified, even working at the basic and secondary education is a problem, because as per the regulation of the education, they are saying that they are not recognized. So in that instance, a lot of them are at a disarray, and they are frustrated. They don't even know what to do. So in that regard, I don't know how the higher education take up that and see a better improvement. I believe so. These are institutions that are also learning the area of sciences, area of philosophy, area of education. If it is well translated, it could also be the same English language that we are feeling. So we are seeing that more engagement in the higher sector is more focused in English and also French. The Arabic universities are also left off. So I don't know what would your university, sorry, the ministry take off in that challenge. And the other thing also about TVET, you know, you could see that you see able men going into TVET education, but accomplishment of their programs, certificates are ordered. And I know NACA is also doing the best to see how best they can harmonize syllabus in that area. You know, so I also want to ask, what lead role would be higher education take in that instance to see not only Gambia recognition, but if I go to Senegal with my certificate of architect or certificate of maybe plumbing, I'll be better recognized instead of seeing a NACA thing where the higher education could also take precedence, as the University of the Gambia is seen. And again, university working better to see a continuous degree program or associate degree program in that end, whereby not a matter of trying to streamline the credits, whatever, but you can go to Tibet, moving around that end, that will also empower them to see that not only academician, but the practical aspect, you can also be awarded degree. So what aspect you also do? So the last is also at the higher education about the science and technology of Kanilai. I am a National Assembly member for the council. Lastly, when the minister former came to that end, we will promise that by September it will kick off. But as per the visit just 2 weeks ago, you will see in quotes that it may not be possible based on the status quo of the nature of the building and also the infrastructural review. You know, indications showing it's going to be very tough to see it done. And the last is, as per my honorable member has just indicated, that every constituency or region planning to see TVET institution, though the like of Ndemban is at high year, but it's not up to operations are expected. We also have one where the road constructors guide, very beautiful, even if properly managed by higher education, could even kickstart by September, different from the Kanilai Science and Technology, just adjacent to the road in Kanfenda itself. A big vacuum, well-equipped offices, buildings, just like the refurbishment little. I think decentralization could also be done. Looking at the capacity of the entire Funis, where you have a lot of high schools, a lot of junior secondary schools, you know, could venture into those TVET education. So I believe so. Lastly, I've engaged the youths of Kanfenda and the Alcalo, seeing a potential where we could seek for donor agencies like YEB, Youth Empowerment Project, GIZ, though I'm also assisting a trainer. I've engaged a lot of those activities, and also the talkies, to see where we could also potentially gain funds to see a satellite training to kickstart. But believing with the ministry could make an assessment harness to see, talk to the communities, and could be a better engagement of those people within the Funis. It's already established, and established fence, you know, whatever ACs are there, electricity, you could see it there, but it's absolute. It's left, you know, for a little bit years. So what plans do we think the higher education could take along that line? I thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we've covered a lot of ground. So we'll give you just to make sure and just remember, let's remember we have two other ministries that we need to go with, and we also don't have the time. So exactly, yeah. So this is going to be the last meeting, and it's going to be allowed one of ministers.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, honorable member for Kansala. And yes, the Campenda building, I haven't visited it, but I will definitely do my best to visit that place and see. But I can tell you that 2 weeks or something around that, I was in Deman, I was in Kanilai, and we are optimistic. I concur with you, and I can share the frustration, because this is long overdue, and that's we know, as you are very familiar with government, you know, system. We don't have all the money. You give us the money, so
knowing very well that we don't have the money, so we engaged MRC Holland, okay, and we went with Henrietta together to Ndeman and Kanilai. What we've agreed now is GTTI, because they are the custodians. They will be the custodians of these two centers. They will have to clear the ground, do the landscaping, and then now they hand over the site to MRC Holland. And it will interest you to know that for Kanilai, for instance, they've engaged some members of the community, because what we want to do is wherever we build these centers, there are certain jobs. You don't need to bring people from elsewhere. You need to employ the locals. So we don't want to wait also for Kanilai or Ndeman to be ready to start employing them. There's work to clear the ground, do the landscaping. So the contractor hired by MRC Holland team up with GTTI, because GTTI will be the one to foot the bill. Now they engage some people from the community who are now leveling the place, so that MRC Holland can operate very easily. The other thing also is we've all agreed with them that come September, October, they will be, the place will be ready, and we will start. Yes, there might be some areas that might not be ready because it's very expensive, but we will do it gradually. So that's what we can confirm to you. For Ndeman and Kanilai, this is very, very important. If you don't finish what we started, there's no way we should think of going elsewhere from zero to start building something. It's not possible. So that one is we feel that it is done, and MRC Holland has agreed. We've handed over the two sites. We've done the inventory. Even some tiles, remaining tiles that belong to us, are handed over to MRC Holland. Everything that was there that we could not finish because of financial reason are now given to MRC Holland. They are working on it for this. So Tibet, yes, we agree with you. For a long time, this country, as I said earlier on, has ignored that area. We felt that most of the time that Tibet is for dropouts. When people forget that these Tibet people, they earn more than me, the minister. You see? Most of they don't know. What we earn and what they are getting is, you see. But it's difficult for people to understand, because it's the way maybe I dress up and so on. So it's different. Yes. So maybe that's the issue. And the Al-Hikmah, that one, I have to be frank with you here. There are some institutions here. When NACA but it's not unique to the Gambia. Even other countries, for instance, even in Nigeria. There was a particular case, particular university. They do not have a library. So, but because the equivalent of NACA was going around to inspect them, so they went to another institution, get some books, borrow, put them in the library, so that when NACA comes, they see that these books are there. So after a while, they return them. So here too, so there are some institutions, they don't have the personnel. You see, I attended meetings where I represented the University of the Gambia, and some were under my school, under me, and then they represent the other. How can you see, I find it difficult. Somebody to say is an administrator there, a registrar, or in charge of academic affairs. You cannot have two full-time appointments. You get the point? And they rely heavily on UTG. You see, most of the truth be told, most of the private institutions in this country rely on UTG to teach for them, or when they go for negotiations with the ministry, they take them along. Unfortunately for them now, because we know them. You see, so when that happens, sometimes it's difficult to really look at it for quality assurance purpose. But whoever meets the requirement, really NACA will give you the endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we move to before you have a word. You have a word for who? The word of us. Go ahead.
Thank you. Chair, for giving me the platform. Earlier on, I debated that we can't have both ministers here one day, 4 ministers. These are national matters, and these are very important issues that we are discussing. And we need not to rush in it, to be very honest with you. And I have no cause to laugh in any way, because we have no reason to laugh. The country, we are seeing the situation that we are in, and these issues are very important and serious. The election of the Minister of Higher Education and all other ministries. Here we are as a nation. What will take us forward? We are at least better. We have proper things to put on, and our people are down there. That is what should be in the back of our minds as we sit here. So it is important that we look at the issue of Faber Campus, as Honorable Minister guided it, the issue of Kanilai and Demban Training Center, Mansa Konko and Julangi. These are important things. And then by September, we call you here also to ask you, Minister, how far have we gone? You understand? We expect those institutions to be in function, because we are not a parliament that will just come and tell us this and that and that. And at the end of the day, we will not take you into account what you need to say. So by September, we expect to call you here and then assess you how far have we gone, what did we achieve, and what we could not achieve. What is the way forward? I thank you. That is the only comment I have, because of the time is not there, as my chair rightly said.
No, I know, it's okay. It's fine. But Honorable, I also want like you to also go and look at the budget for the ministers as well. And you can actually understand.
If they are not working on it,
the fact of the matter, the fact of the matter, Honorable,
yes,
is that also we don't have any resources, I can tell you. But what we are doing, we are trying to mobilize on our own, even outside the budget.
Now, why September 2022 is there?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. What we've done is, we know that, Mr. Chairman, we know that, Honorable, we know that this is very important, and we concur with you. But we know that we are not given that money. We are not given that money to do it now, but we cannot, as a ministry, sit down and wait. So that's why we engage MRC Holland. Okay, and MRC Holland, we currently, as I'm talking to you, we handed over the sites to them. We are now waiting for September, October, for them to give us the keys, and then we do the inauguration. So we've agreed with them that they will hand over. By the way, for your info, the student dormitories are ready.
Good. Thank you.
Those ones are ready. The student dormitories at Deman and also Kanilai. They are ready. The renovation. The only Kanilai is just the the beds, but for Deman the beds are already in. But the building is one thing, but the equipment, that's something else, and that's where is we need more money.
And maybe request for the contract documents
for
the university.
Faraba. Yes, you can make it.
Actually, that will be handled by FPAC. And this financials, yes, from the constitution that we're okay. Yes, Honorable, thank you and welcome. So, can you just give us a briefing about the situation in the ministry as well?
Okay. I thank you very much, honorable members of the Assembly. With us at the Ministry of Information, we are trying to set the stage to make the public understand, as well as actors within the system of media, that we are now calling for an advocacy for a shift in paradigm from a paradigm that was confrontational to one that would be complementing each other. We realized for a long time that the media in the Gambia, with government organs, especially security, had been very confrontational. The reasons could be many, probably because the relationship is not defined by the actors. The relationships might have been defined by third parties, because taking conditions constant everywhere, we believe that as born Gambians, every Gambian would want the prosperity of the Gambia. And how do we achieve that? The actors within the system in the Gambia, so long as they are relating with one another, must harmonize their relationship. So that is one thing we are working on. To achieve this, we feel it is important to see the work environment of all the actors in the media. Consequently, we have decided to embark on tour, and we are visiting radio stations in their different categories, from the national broadcaster to private as well as community radio stations. The objective of visiting them is not only to familiarize ourselves with what occurs, but to understand the dynamics in which they operate and see how much we can relate with them in order to enhance the general working environment. We have done this, and we have found it quite interesting. We have found it quite appreciative of some people, to the extent that even the places that we have not visited yet, some of them have begun to think whether we have sidelined them. But that does not exist anywhere. It is going to be rolled out, and every radio station, so long as they are existing in the Gambia, would be visited. Paramount also in our medium and long-term activities would be the implementation of the ATI, which was enacted into law here in the Assembly. Because we understand that the matter of access to information is a fundamental right that actors in government must be accountable to the people. We understand and appreciate that governments will come and go, but society remains. And therefore, what is important is to put in place a workable system that would be rewarding with dividends to society. The law was enacted here, and what we are now looking forward to with partners is how we could implement this law. Alongside this, we are also trying to settle. Since the decoupling of the two ministries, you remember that the Ministry of Information was going alongside with communication infrastructure. But in the recent, they have been decoupled. The decoupling actually entails a lot of administrative issues that we are now working on in order to get ourselves settled. As I said inter alia, the implementation and the activities of the ministry could not be done single-handedly. We therefore require the intervention of traditional development partners such as the World Bank. We've had some meetings with them, the objective of which is to sell to them the package that we have, especially with the ATI law, considering the different component activities that would have to be done for the implementation to take effect. So these are some of the activities that since our appointment we have been engaged on. We know that the media area is not a confined area. It is not so simple, especially in a developing democracy. Sometimes people would take certain things to be as matters of right, and in so doing, acting that way, only to realize that they are encroaching on the freedom of others. So, honorable members, this is what we at the Ministry of Information are doing. And we must register our appreciation for this call, because the organs of government require that we must be interactive, especially between the legislature and the executive. In the exercise of your oversight functions, it is important that actors understand that to some degree we are answerable to you. And that is what for now, what I have to say. When Honorable Professor was presenting, I remembered Pandon Denjai, who was one time principal of Gambia College, what he had said. He said, when there is a gathering of educationists, the commonest sickness is verbal diarrhea. Yes, my permanent secretary is informing me about it is also within the package of implementing the ATI law. It is only a component of it, that is the Media Commission. This would be the structure that would be responsible for the continuous registration and administration of complaints from individual interested persons on matters relating to the media. It is just a component of it. Yes.
Thank you. Members, do you have any question?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
The new minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also, a seasonal community, I can even say group. My question is about the area of digitalization in terms of technology and economic empowerment. When you look at the status quo of the country now, you realize that the internet is a big challenge.
Can you reserve that question for the digital economy guys?
It's not digital economy.
No.
Communication. It's information.
Exactly. So,
okay. No, I thought it's digital. Okay. Okay, I thought it's communication. Yes.
So I think the access to information will it be implemented ministry or just access to information?
All information matters are central and core to the Ministry of Information. When there are gaps on legal issues, the Ministry of Justice will come into the scene. But it is the core function of the Ministry of Information to deal with all matters related to information. And inclusive in them is the ATI law implementation.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking, just to this particular committee actually was the one that was responsible for this particular bill. So I just want to you guys, when you just confirm. I think we have some extensive debate about in the act of divine the minister, that's the minister responsible for justice. So what it means actually, this particular act is not on the Ministry of Justice. So if there's any need for amendment to be made, particularly now that we have Ministry of Information, let's better do that as quickly as possible so that you take charge of everything. But right now, the way the act is, if I remember correctly, holistically is handled by the Ministry of Justice. Yeah. But I think there's a need, you confirm, but especially on the definition, where it's defined minister, is the Minister for Justice. So if there's a need for us to, I mean, you can just.
Okay.
So
that will be
directed to you.
That will be taken note
Not
of.
to give this leg, this one there, and then you take the other leg.
No, okay.
Exactly.
That will be,
exactly.
that is noted.
Thank you.
But as far as my understanding can give me, it is the Ministry of Information. And within the ministry, the focal point is the Department of Information Services.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. We can do it. Yes, you got to
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move to Mopsy. It seems he has a lot also.
Education is
exactly
the problem. I told you, Pandon said it's the commonness sickness.
Exactly. So today we're going to have a diarrhea of what?
Verbal diarrhea.
Verbal diarrhea. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to start by congratulating you and the other members who have been re-elected, and more importantly, serving in this committee. I also want to congratulate the new members on your election victory, and more importantly, also joining this committee. It is our desire and hope that we look forward to working with you amicably as in the past. Having said that, as you rightly put it, we have a lot of issues, but for the interest of time, I'll just summarize them, and perhaps during the questions, some of the issues that might be left out could be asked. I want to start by just joining my colleagues from higher education on the issue of Tibet. According to our policy 2016-2030, the issue of Tibet has been highlighted that we need to start introducing Tibet. Unfortunately, it has not taken off, but I'm happy to say, like they said, we now have a national Tibet policy for the sector, and this cuts across from basic to tertiary and higher. And we also have the concepts being built in our curriculum so that students could be exposed to the concept of Tibet from the early grade of grade 4, not to wait till when they get to senior secondary school before they start learning. The reason for that is to ensure that the students are given at least options as to the pathway, as the Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Professor Gomez, have said. And not everyone will desire to go the academic way. There are others who also want to use their skills, which is very important. And we all agree and know that we've lacked it as a country. So that exercise have started building in the concept of Tibet in the early grades of grade 4 going forward. It is in that light that we also have constructed some schools purely looking at the issue of Tibet. We have one in Sanyang, one in Gunjur, one in Somita, mainly. And we have one in Pirang, but the Pirang one is not Tibet as such, but it's an agricultural school. Well, the concept there is we want to help students to really practicalize the concept of agriculture, not only in theory terms, but in practical terms. So in other words, when they learn the theory in classroom, they will go to the practical. It is housed at the Agricultural Farming Center, the Mixed Farming Center in Pira. So they will be like revolving around the agricultural theory concepts and then the practicals. And the produce would also be used to service and feed into the school. So that's the concept that has started. The school is operational, and it's our hope that we will replicate these things in other regions. And our target mainly actually would be Region 5 North, as Honorable has said. We must agree if we really want to move on as a country, we need to pay special concentration on Region 5, both the North and the South. There is a lot that it can offer us as a country. So that's the areas we are trying to look at to replicate all of this across the country. In fact, it is also in this light that we are expanding our TVET. We have a TVET center, unit, in the ministry. So what we are now doing is we're training more TVET teachers and giving them full blown scholarship to go and learn, because we cannot open these schools without having the skills, the knowledge to be able to teach in these schools. So we have also opened that for anyone that is interested to be. But meanwhile, we are using our existing teachers in our school system and also those in GTTI. Our TVET unit that we have, we are expanding it. Schools like St. Teresa's, for example, don't buy furniture. Everything is made in the schools, and many other schools. Yes, they don't. So that's the kind of thing we know. I'm sure Honorable Mbo and my Honorable from SAMI will tell you that we've said this to you, that when we float the repair of furniture through the tender process, so sometimes we have invoices about $3 million just to do a particular school, for example. But when we use our TVET unit, what we do is we just buy the materials and just pay for the workmanship that they do. So from 3 million, sometimes we get down to 400,000. So you would have seen that a lot of savings is done. That is what we want to reinforce, because we cannot continue to get the furniture through the convention or the normal way of tendering it, the processes. Even by the time it gets started, the school academic year would have closed. And education is one service that cannot wait. It's on the run, and we must be running after it. So that is why that is being done at that level. I'm sure you are also aware that in the recent past, the sector has gone into some strategic reforms in the system. One of them is the curriculum review. We have reviewed the curriculum and expanded it. Those of us who've been to school with, some of us did agriculture as a subject. But when you say agriculture, what are you talking about? There are so many things embedded in agriculture. Things like aquaculture, forestry, horticulture, and so on and so forth. So we are disadvantaging our students by just giving them that broad concept of agriculture. Instead of specializing them into forestry, aquaculture, and so on, we give them that broader concept, wherein their counterpart in other countries will be getting all these ones you are hearing, perhaps maybe one in forestry, one in aquaculture, one in, and we'll be wondering, oh, our system, educational system is not doing well, without really knowing the details or putting it into perspective for you to have a better understanding of what the system is. So we have done that now, and we have expanded the curriculum. So students are now exposed to a lot of choices. My colleague and my senior from higher education will tell you, they have floated, they've just spoke about the program that they are doing with Kwame Nkrumah in times of science and technology. Our Gambian children are falling short of the requirements. The opportunity is there for our students to be sent there, but they cannot, because the requirement has it that you must have further maths, you must have chemistry, physics, and so on, to be able to go to do engineering. But that has not been. So now we have also expanded to have Science 1, Science 2, Science 3. What does that mean? So that those on the exceptional good levels could do Science 1, and they will do the chemistries, the physics, the add maths, and so on. Those that are second could do the add maths, perhaps not physics or chemistry, optional up to Science D. So that at least everyone finds his level or her level within the school curriculum. Then you'll be able to make a choice that will help you to at least develop you to a certain level. So that has been done. And hopefully the first batch will be examined. When I say examined, I mean international exams, will be examined in 2024 for that kind of situation that we have done in times of expansion. More importantly, I'm sure honorable members and colleagues will agree that our society now has called us to attention. in terms of our behavior, in terms of our ethics, in terms of our cultural experiences. We've really seen things that are not very normal, and we must accept it if we want to make a change. For that reason, we have now reintroduced the subject civic education. It's compulsory for everybody, regardless of your level. And it's going to start from the very lower basic to the senior secondary school. What is the rationale behind that? Is to ensure that we begin to teach these issues of rights and law for your country, law for neighbors, among other things, so that we can restore what is known for the Gambia in a way to build up our culture. To support that also, we have started, which will come with a press release soon, to ensure that we force the teaching of religious studies in our schools. Religious studies, this I mean IRK, Islamic studies, and also religious studies in terms of Christianity. One may wonder, why do you need to force one to read, to study religion or to? We are not people who force people to do things. However, we have a moral and a constitutional responsibility to provide service, particular educational service to the people. And the molding of young people to become responsible citizens tomorrow is one of our responsibilities. And we want to ensure that people are exposed to God or exposed to the study of God with the view of having that fear and love for humanity or fear of God. This is just to supplement the studies of civic education. So I thought that is important for you to know. We also have some crash programs that we created. As Honorable Baji was talking about some of our people who graduate from that university, and now they are very unfortunate. They are in the street not being able to get some jobs, even though they went through that process. We also have what we have done at the Ministry of Basic Education. For them to teach for us, we don't have a problem. But the problem is the certification is at another level. If they are authenticated by NACA, which is the authority responsible, we will now get them into our system, but we do have what we call crash programs. Because like the graduates that come from some of the Islamic universities abroad, they may be very fluent and very good in terms of the Arabic language and so on, but they have some deficiency in English language. So we have engaged with IOU to prepare crash programs for them so that it can improve their English language. Why are we doing this? In the past, we realized that when they are being hired at the ministry, those of us from the conventional universities as a graduate is grade 8. But these people were placed below grade 8. And I think for me, I don't think that's proper. If you are a graduate, you are a graduate. It's either you're not graduate or you are a graduate. So because of that, we have created these crash programs so that we can work on their English, because they need to teach in the schools. And one of the languages, of course, for medium of is English language in the schools. That's the reason why we engage on that, and I think it's important you know that. Let me go quickly back to, I told you about the curriculum development. There is this general notion that quality, which we've agreed. We've achieved relevance, success, and so on and so forth. We also have concern in terms of quality. But how do we address quality? Quality involves a lot of things. I know we compare ourselves to countries like Finland, like Professor has said, but let me quickly tell you that in Finland, what obtains is this. A class size is not more than 15, 20 at most. And in that class size, you have 3 teachers, 3 highly qualified, minimum bachelor's degrees, but most of them are all master's degree. So it is just not qualifications in terms of what we do or what we concentrate on here. No. There are other things that are responsible. What is important or desired is the time contact, the contact that the teacher and the students have. If in our own system, we have students coming to school from 8 to 2, for example, and then they close. In other countries, the students come from 8 to 4, sometimes 5 or 6 in some other countries. Somebody who has that access with his tutor will naturally, of course, perform better than you do. But we are challenged in our own situation because, one, we do not have the classrooms to accommodate that. We do not also have the teaching and learning materials. We do not also have the teachers. If we want to do all of this, these are additional costs that will get into the budget to be able to get all of this. And a clear classical example is Bundum. I like using Bundum because I have, in the Bundum primary school, lower basic, we have we have what we call the proper and the annex. If you put the two of them together, you have about 7,000 students in the two. But I would urge some of us to make a try. Drive around that area or walk around that area within school hours. You will find children in the streets. And if you do, you should be able to ask yourself, why are these school-going age children not in classrooms, but they're in school? Meaning they cannot be accommodated. And that's the reason why we have a lot of pocket schools or private schools or even ECD in. So we now want to build a school there. And I'm sure even if we do tomorrow, it will be filled. But another challenge we have is land. Land, we don't. New Joshuan, Serakunda Primary, the same. We have a challenge. Anybody from Kandiba, we had to go and fold the other structures to build up new structures to make them vertical to be able to accommodate. We know Iwo Town, New Joshua, and Kandiba, and that area is growing fast. So we still don't have land. Just for us to have an idea of what we do. But supporting all these reforms that we are doing is we have a TV, a MOPSI TV. The reason for the TV is purely for educational services, no other reason. Of course, as we grow, if there is need to use it to generate funds to plow back in the education sector, but it's primarily for educational service delivery. But we have a challenge because we all know how expensive TV is. It helped us through the COVID, during the COVID, in which it was operational, but now it's off operations. Now, as a substitute to that, we also introduce what we call community radios. So I'm happy to inform this group that as we talk, we have 5 community radios, and we are ready for operations. One, His Honorable Minister and my colleague here grants me the license and the frequency to operate. Why, the reason for these radios, like I said again, is to be able to air our lessons at all times, so that students are exposed or can interact with lessons, not only within the confines of the classroom, but also outside the classroom, because we want to make sure that they interact with this. Supporting that is SD cards. We have produced cards, SD cards, and put the content, particularly for the upper basic and the senior secondary schools, because these are examination class, so that they can interact. You can use it with or without internet. It is both on and offline facility, so students can use it. And this, I want to stress, honorably, this would interest you. During the 4-year crisis, we have to quickly get our students out of the region. But what we also do to supplement and support them is to, one, allow any school, any public school, to admit them without condition. For example, if any of those children finds himself or herself in Serakunda, he can walk to Serakunda Primary, he will be admitted without conditions. That was done for them. But in addition to that, we now diverted some of these SD cards that were meant for the upper basic and senior secondary schools to the lower basic, or to those students that are around the area. The content is being now revised, because initially, like I said, it was meant for the upper. But because now these people are involved, we have now diverted that and even requested for more. We requested for more so that we can be able to serve these students as a way of temporal. And there was that temporal structures too. We renovated at in Fonyi. No, Kampan. They were the ones that belongs to agriculture and also the mission. Yes, just to make sure that we temporarily house the students and even the teachers, because they especially the teachers, they express the fear of staying in the quarters. We said now you can teach there, and then we'll give you these places to do as a temporal measure until a solution is found out there. So the issue of ICT, they will speak about it, but it's of interest to MOPSI because we are rolling out. We've taken equipment, ICT equipment like laptops, like tablets to our students. But we cannot do digital learning or e-learning without ICT. And we really would like to work with our colleagues to ensure that the provisions of internet across the country would really serve our purpose as we want to expand on that. We've done what we call one computer, one school. Each of the schools is provided a computer. The reason for this is real-time data, so that they can collect data in either absenteeism, attendance, and some other issues. And they are all given mobile phones. So they can send that information at any given point that is requested, all across it. And there are plans to have one teacher, one computer, one laptop. The reason again is to ensure that we have timely and also real-time learning. Teacher competency tests. I want to bring this to the attention of this committee. Quality, quality, quality. What we have also decided to do at the ministry is, yes, let's look at how we've been doing business, like Prof have said, over the years. What has it brought us? What yield has it provided us? So for that reason, we had a trial on teacher competency test. What is the teacher competency test? What we do is, if a teacher, for example, in the PTC, let's put it so that we all understand, PTC, you are at PTC, you are taught to be able to teach from grade 1 to 6. So when you are taught that curriculum at that level, at the end of that program, colleague may finish with you and certify you. However, for you to be able to teach in our public schools, you are subjected to do what we call a competency test. These competency tests are questions drawn on the subject area you have been taught one, and also on the subject area you would have examined your students as a teacher. I teach grade 3. I would have examined my students on grade 3 content. So the competency test that is also given to me as a teacher is based on that same content. So it's not something that is higher than the levels, no. So we've done the trial 2 years ago, we've done one. We are doing one, we are preparing to have one. And this one, we want to test it in terms of employment into our system. Those who don't pass have an opportunity to correct it, or somehow, how would I put it, to ensure that they work on it to be able to pass one. Well, the question one would ask is, yes, if you are doing it now to these ones, what happens to those of us who have passed some years ago? Yes, you have passed. What we intend to do is, if you have passed, you must be at a level now. For you to move from that level to another in terms of promotion and so on, you must be subjected to some form of competency test at that level. In that way, at some point, everyone would have been able to go through some form. The rationale behind all of this is to work towards addressing our concern of quality education. Because you cannot be teaching students something that you yourself do not matter. And I think, honorable members, you may find time we can share these findings with you in terms of the scripts that were marked, for you to have an idea and appreciate the efforts that are being put together to help us grow as a country or as a sector, because we really need to address quality and standards if we really mean business, like all of us are saying. So maybe in short, All of this can all be achieved if we have the financial support. I appreciate the honestly, without, I mentioned it to somebody. I remember last year, Honorable Mo will remember, Parliament, particularly this committee, were in session from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. the next day. And they were all there to support. For me, that was marvelous and tremendous. I must continue to recognize them and appreciate you. And they were all canvassing for not only education, but all other sectors. And that for me, that is national service. That is good for society. That's good for country. Because if we have the tools that we need to be able to produce, then we can be held accountable. And anyone that fails to live to expectation, then could be challenged. I think I will stop. I will stop here, and then perhaps the others could be addressed through the questions and answers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon to you. I think we have to speak our problems in the region 3 as well. The Honorable Permanent Secretary. I was a teacher in the region 3, and then I still see myself as a head teacher because education is my concern, definitely. But far back last year, there was a wind storm that erupted, and then causes a lot of destruction in the schools in that region, particular region 3. And up to date, as I can understand, that problem is still there. It is not addressed. So I don't know what your ministry is definitely doing in order to put up that problem. Because if you visit some of the schools in region 3, definitely the condition there is unbearable. And then we are advocating for quality. So obviously in that condition, to have quality education, this is going to be very, very, very difficult. So the Honorable Permanent Secretary, well, I don't know, but because it has taken a long time since last year, rainy season, up to now, nothing absolutely has been done. So that's my question. I don't know what your department is doing to put up that problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Let me start by saying I'm fully aware of what you have just mentioned. I know it does exist because I'm one person that also visits schools very regularly. And I'm not too sure which of the schools you're talking about, but there is this particular one right on the high road in which I went there, and I've been asked the head to leave his office to relocate because I was not comfortable where I found him. I'm very concerned about it, but like I said, everything revolves around funding. It may interest you to know that in the last budget, 2021, I was given 9 million for furniture, for example. 9 million for furniture is just less than a school, to equip a school. If you go by the standard rate per desk and chair, it's less than a school. A school that has more than 48 classrooms. In each class, you are expected to have 23 desks. That's by our standard, 23. So you can imagine a school of 48 classrooms, how many of those you will need. So if I get something like that, and unfortunately, a havoc happens like that, the only source of refuge or source of solution is to look back to the Ministry of Finance and request for funds. And I can categorically tell you that I have done that times without number. we've requested for funds, and unfortunately, we've still not received anything. In fact, Honorable Bo may recall when I even came, because I remember last year there were some amount of money that were allocated at the central services, which they say we could access when we need. And I requested, exactly, and I requested for some amount of it, and I was told it can't. So I'm fully aware, and as
you can see clearly why I made the recommendation for that money to be moved from the centralized service to the Minister of Higher Education and Education. Because the thing was like they wanted to use that to augment salaries and stuff like that. So my fear was that when the time you need it, you will not be able to get it. But unfortunately, we were indebted by my members. That was my fear.
Yeah, I know, I recall that. So if we have those, to be honest with you, it's in our interest to make sure that we have, if not perfect, but at least conducive working environment. We are aware that state of being of our teachers has a correlation to their output, which is also related to the absorptive capacity of the students. Because if they don't produce enough for the students to absorb, naturally they will not. And that relates to all these quality issues we're talking about. So once we get the funds, we'll happily do it. We have done some. We looked at those that were very critical. We have fixed some of them with the help of our development partners, but I know there are still a few that are outstanding. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to understand that as far as this, we are ready to support. Like, we will definitely ready to support or to make sure that we approve it, because definitely education is the backbone of the country. So it's our concern. Yeah.
But also at the level of cabinet, your minister is here to start to ensure that what's needed to get. Because the issue we have is once the cabinet they come here, then it makes it more difficult for us. But he also needs to stand and then, you know,
farm. Yeah.
You know, I know. Thank you so much, fellow members, and my able permanent secretary. Thank you so much.
I'm not used to going into lengthy questions. My question is, you mentioned a few schools here, that is Somita SSS, and you have Sanyang and Gunju. Yes, these schools are functioning, but for Somita and Gunju, they are yet to move into the new building. So, and where they are, they're actually not comfortable, especially that of Somita. As we speak now, they are going into exams. And if one is to a chair, they will not actually fit where they are. So how far? Because according to this document that I'm seeing here, they have written to you jointly, to your ministry, jointly written to you, to tell you about the shortcomings that they have. Like in Gunju Senior Secondary School, they have a borehole dog, which means the water is in supply, you understand? But then in Somita, the borehole is there, but then no solar system. They don't have the solar panel, and the furniture also. Furniture is another problem. So when you come to Sanyang, there is a borehole that is dug, and the toilets are not in good use. For that Sanyang, the toilets are not in good use, or they could not use the toilet. So I definitely want to know, what is your ministry doing to get them into the new buildings, and where the problem actually lies? Secondly, you mentioned about Kappa, Tambakunda, and other schools during the time of the conflict. Those schools those students were not going to school for almost 1.5 months or 2 months. I am not sure that what you have come up as a solution is not, I'm not sure it's the best solution for it. What I believe is like, we could have remedied the situation better by providing extra study classes for them, and have them during the summer holidays to go on study classes, wherein we have to pay teachers some amount of money to compensate your question is getting very the lost hours. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Now let me stop here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vice Chair. To start with the first ones, the three schools that I've mentioned, like you rightly put it, I'm aware that the issue they have, all of them in common, is water issue. We've been battling out with the contractor in terms of getting the right water system in place. I'm sure you will know that generally, most of the boreholes that we have across the country are beginning to fail us. And we cannot continue to put boreholes just in the name of boreholes. After a few months of use, they then run into problems. So there were some boreholes that were suggested. And based on the technical advice we got, we realized that they are not the best. So we insisted that it's better that we struggle with the water system and get the right boreholes than getting just a quick fix. And in the long run, it will affect us. Generally, that's what they have. But in terms of furniture, for the three schools, they have no furniture issue because every new school that we build will have furniture. So it's either the furniture is not yet supplied because they are not in operation yet, but not because they have furniture. They will always be provided furniture. Every new school that is built, a part of the contract is to get furniture into the school or into the classrooms. Yes, that is in the case of that. With the issue of Kappa, I understand. You see, unfortunately, the Kappa issue is not an educational issue alone. Because until we have a permanent solution for that problem, it will be challenging. Yes, we are affected because we have our schools right there and our students are moving. The reason for pushing the Gabeke exams and the NAT, which would have been held last month to July after the Toboski, is because we wanted to give them extra time. We are aware that they've lost time. And that's why we insisted, since the Gabeke and NAT is an exams that we can control internally. Control by this, I mean, we can reschedule the date. It's not an external exams that would have to be sat to by other countries on the same day. That's the reason we moved it to July, just to give some time for these people to catch up. It may not be perhaps the best or the most appropriate, but I think for a start, it wasn't bad to get these people done. And in terms of the extra classes, yes, our teachers are more than willing to have these extra classes. But I want us to be careful. The issue of security is a challenge. My teachers formed a delegation. In fact, I had to come to Region 2 to meet them. And they expressed concern over their security. They are not ready to go in. And naturally, this is human life and these are people. So we have that challenge. We've engaged with them, but they are willing to do it. But the other side of it is when they have this and they now request for funding, we go back to our problem. You remember our problem in the recent past, especially on my COVID, you know. So these are a few challenges, and if we don't have support on this, we will have a problem. But I am.
But for the issue of the funding, we could discuss that at one point in time.
Yes. No, I don't have a problem. For me, if you give me problems, my teachers are. Yeah, my teachers are more than willing. Yes.
The only thing I wanted to highlight also the Ministry of was some of the things that your minister may not be competent in terms of this board.
Just to suggest maybe perhaps you need to collaborate with the Minister of Water Resources because that's their domain and they'll be able to advise you and they'll be able to ensure that the proper boards are dug. Like the issue also with the Minister of Agriculture, you know, they have projects doing road construction instead of liaising with the Minister of Transport. That's their domain and infrastructure. So sometimes, you know, we encourage you also to collaborate with the other ministries that are really very competent in that particular area and they'll be able to assist you because, you know, like they say, all that glitters is not gold. So everybody will pull now, I can do a borehole, I can do this. But in actual sense, even the proper procedures in terms of where the water level, all the stories, they don't even do. They just come drill and then they fix and then they go. And sometimes also the members of parliament, they are expert in these areas now because exactly. So sometimes even the pump that actually lifts the water is the main issue, not even the water table or whatever it is. So all those things, only the water resources should be able to help you to ensure that you get value for money. So I encourage you to do more collaboration in that particular area. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
With your permission, hold on.
I remember in those days, there was a subject called Civic in the secondary schools. People used to do it at the secondary school. But it went up to a time, the subject is no more taught in the schools. And it is a very good subject. It makes us to know our rights and know who is a citizen and who is not a citizen. So now I have to thank the ministry. If the ministry now want to come back, start it at the grassroots, I think that is a very good move. So that children at the lower basic school know their right and know who is a citizen and who is not a citizen. I think that will help us a lot. So all the deliberation that you made, there is one thing that I don't hear, that is the general welfare of teachers. I have a question. I don't know, because I'm a teacher. I'm still a teacher. If you go to my compound, I have a blackboard there. Still now, I used to teach my kids. So I'm still a teacher. So, and teachers used to say, July, there is going to be a new grade system. I don't know whether it will be or not. A new grade system. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. I will start with the last one.
Yeah.
Whether there will be or not, that is not my authority.
Okay.
That is not for me to say or not to say. However, the one thing I know is whatever happens nationally, it will affect all of us. And the teachers are part of the integrated pay scale. So they will not be exempted from whatever happens. That I can give you assurance in terms of welfare. In addition to the issue of welfare, I'm sure you will agree that even last year when we met you as a committee and even at the general plenary, we brought in a budget to address the issue of staff quarters for the first time specifically. And unfortunately it was scrapped. We came back to you, and I think with your support, we have 10 million, which we requested. We've still not gotten the funds, but as soon as we get that, we look at some critical areas, like to have to at least have staff quarters in those. We open training, and maybe it's important for me to mention it here. It's unfortunate that, yes, we are willing and more than ready to support our teachers in terms of training. Because at the upper level, the senior secondary school, we have 97% of qualified teaching force. And in the upper basic, we have 94.7. And in the lower is where we're still having some issues. But notwithstanding, it's 91.8 or so. So not that we don't have but our desire is to have 100 in all of them. But we still have a gap that we want to fill. But that aside, the challenge we have at training is everyone wants to be trained at the same time. And if that happens, we will not have teachers in our schools. And then there'll be outcry in your communities. And that will now, you will now come to us. So what we are trying to do is to have a very coordinated training process and approach, so that we know those that are trained. One additional to the welfare is we're also doing benefits. That's not the best way of framing it.
To encourage teachers, we are doing welfare or best award. If like Region 5 South will be doing their best teacher award recently. They held a Jaliba, I think, last week or so. And the best teacher, last year, the best teacher was offered scholarship to study in any of the universities in the world that he wants. Even though government frowns at that, but we were wanting to do that. Unfortunately, the teacher could not get what it requires for him to get there. Just to tell you how we are, recently, we have also engaged with our partners to give scholarship. This year alone, if we put everything together, will be over 100 people that we are given scholarship together across the sector. So we are very, very conscious about welfare, because once the teachers are not motivated, they will not be able to be productive. And that is going to be against us. It will not be in our interest. So we really have the welfare of teachers. And I'm sure you are aware of the recent promotions in the recent years. Over 2,000 teachers have been promoted to various levels, principals, vice principals, heads, and so on and so forth. Even those that were neglected or were forgotten for many years have now been uplifted. I think that really the sector is very concerned and very conscious about their plight. We will continue to do our best within the limited resources that we have, but it's in our interest to make sure that we look after their welfare.
Yes. Oh, yes. Chair will ask questions. I put a big question on this about the need for the ministry to also start thinking of computerizing schools, because this is the only country you go. Somebody will go through high school in government schools, and you graduate and you are unable to use a computer. And we live in an information age. And I remember a few years ago in 2014-15, the Moise actually were able to put about 12 or so computer labs in high schools across the country. And then when it happened, coincidentally, I was part of the project team that was doing that. In fact, it made me feel so good. I said, if we are able to do this every year or for the next 10 years, I think all the schools in this country may be able to get a computer lab. But again, that is Moise. Now, this is your own ministry. So I don't know if you are planning on anything, at least to start with the senior secondary schools. What plans do we have to ensure that at least we have a computer lab in each of those, senior secondary schools, so that at least we need to move, as a nation. But it's going to be difficult. We have people going to University of Gambia or some other universities. They cannot even use the laptop. It becomes really very, very difficult. So are there any plans to try to reverse that that trend? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I hope no funding issue. Okay. Very good.
Say that your initial concern about collaboration with other sectors, we have always been collaborating with water resources. The difficulty we have in some of these schools that have been constructed through the bank is that the bank would deal with their contractors on their own. They have so many of these hitches that they limit the ministry as to what they do. But those that are within our purview, it is the Ministry of Department of Water Resources that is being involved or called upon. They actually do the entire processes for us. That's the collaboration we do. But coming back to your recent question in terms of the computers, I will start by extending an invitation to this honorable committee that on the 28th, I will double check my dates. We have a big occasion at St. Joseph's, and this is in relation to this question. We have a full-fledged computer lab, I think 25 of them, in which Gambia High School, St. Joseph's, and St. Augustine's they shift in times of, they use it in times of shifts. When these ones are off, these ones come to use it. And you'll be amazed to see what is happening. So I'll encourage you to be, to to be in attendance on that occasion, but I'll double check the date and share with you. But to broader say, we have quite a number of computer labs in our schools. It's not only in St. Joseph's, even in Gambia High School we have, in Kotu we have. Muslim have just moved to Brusubi, as you may know, but there are also labs that are ready for fixing, even though we need more space. Koba Kunda, if you have ever been there, it's a state of art on all the subjects, not only computer, but even Civic and some others. So we have a pocket of them. We may not have all of them in all our senior secondary schools, but that is the desire, because we also want to promote in Newstrat. You can make a try at Newstrat. You have also full-fledged computers. So we are aware and we are working towards within our limited resources to ensure that we get that, because the COVID has taught us that we cannot be active players without the ICT now. We cannot. No matter what we do, we still have to do it. And that's the reason I said they should help us with internet connection, the ministry, so that we can also expand on those.
You get the connection now, so what now?
No, we get some, there are some machines that we have. Yes, there are a few machines.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, it's a great move that I think you've mentioned about this religious studies. Some of us, we started at the mission school, whereby both the Islamic and the Christian aspect, you're compelled to at least find as a core of it, and it has definitely paid off. The move is good, but not only trying to initiate for a compulsory aspect of it. Well, in code, we also look at the allocated time. You imagine maths maybe have a double period, but either Christian or religious studies, 30 minutes. What do you expect that individual will learn for 6 years or maybe 3 years? It's a problem. So if it could also be a call to make sure a time is increased, could also better enhance and be educative to change that mode of that individual to become better in any of these two fields. So I think you can also consider in that line. The other thing that I've also mentioned of the last crisis in Funi, what happened, we were fully monitoring that area, but instances that you said, allocation were done in Camp and a lot of Boyam, it was never implemented better, because the reason being is the number of students. And again, talking of Boyam, you have the populated school, and you have one catchment area that will also join that population. For example, you have 150 in a class. You have another, 50 in those areas. How would they be able to? So about 3 weeks to 1 month, no learning has taken place, because if a net came around, going around within the phones, what we told them was it's not going to work well. They took the data. It was never materialized, and it didn't even go as expected. So children were wandering around without education. So I think your ministry could do a better way next time to see. I know you don't control the price of war, but we are saying that it may or it may not. Then the other thing that I also want to add about the remuneration of teachers, especially Kappa. The instances, the teachers, when they did a rioting, whereby they said they are not going to in the classroom. I personally was invited, but before then they took their own decision. So we later discussed with Region 2 about that instance to see how do we better improve. But amicably, I spoke to them that they have to understand that you cannot increase now when the budget aspect of allocation is a problem. So the rich area in terms of those volatile regions, maybe as per this budget, you can also include it and see a better move next time to see so that it will capture. Then the last one is about the Gambia College. Okay, fine. All right. No, it's okay. Yeah, about the teacher quality, I was just trying to talk about the teacher quality. Yeah, most of the teachers will move on and they look for better incentive and schools. I know if you look at the phonies, sometimes accommodation is a problem. So maybe you see better how you can also adjust those areas. Thank you.
Yes, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you can just because we are here and this stuff is go back.
Yes.
You know, we care for us. What do we do? So we can be quick and then you want to come in. So go ahead.
Yes. Yes. If I may understand, if I may quote you right, you did mention of Pirang Senior Secondary School under agriculture, and then the other two schools in Sanyang and the other place under Civic, Somita. Now, where would we categorize the Pirang Senior Secondary School? Because we've also seen another experience shift in their curriculum activities, their school curriculum. That is when they were moved from the basic cycle school that they were occupying temporarily to the agricultural schools. Students were asked to take a choice of getting into purely agricultural, and in fact that has led to many to seek transfers and then go to other senior secondary schools. Now, what are plans in place to make sure that that one is regularized? Because considering the schools within Combo East, from that Kafuta end right down into Brikama, we haven't got any standard senior secondary school that will accommodate students that are willing to study. And then transportation cost is way high. We haven't been located with any school bus service. So looking into that now, parents are considering that school to be purely agricultural, as we will be considering Jina or other places. Now, what is your ministry putting in place to make sure those things are mitigated and that zone, that area, that community is availed with a standard senior secondary school that will absorb students in sciences and other artificial and commercial subjects?
Thank you very much. Yes, normally I don't like giving people time to ask the question, but I'm going to give you 2 minutes last.
Yes, just to start with Honorable Jiva's question.
Like I said, yes, we may not have done the best approach to the Fonyi issue, but what we did was a mitigation measure. When a crisis hit, you have to look at what can be done in the immediate term before you go into the medium and then the long term. And that was the response we gave. However, what the teachers are calling for, they were calling for 100% double shift payment. And you know, double shift would mean it's a percentage of your salary. When you say 100%, it means that we should pay them 2 salaries. That's what it means in plain language. That is not a decision MOPSI can take. It's a legal decision. We all know, no one is entitled to 2 salaries. So we did actually engage with them and explain some of these things to them. The issue of risk is something that we've considered even before they came, because we had schools that are, for example, St. Mary's that is over there by the ports. If a teacher alights from this, before he gets to that place, it's difficult, or even the students. But that consideration, we consider it on the hardship, our hardship program, just to encourage and ensure that there are teachers there. So similarly, we are thinking of having this risk, but it's something that is subjected to the approval of team. But we'll advance it and see how it comes out at the end of the budget. Coming back to Honorable quickly, just to say, unfortunately, the parent school was meant to be an agricultural school. That is the purpose. What are we trying to achieve here? We must begin to think at regional advantages. By this, I mean we need to start looking at comparative advantage. You cannot go and put a commercial, for example, CRR. We know what CRR can do for us. Having an agricultural school in CRR, for example, that is well equipped and that can produce this would help in the production that we need for food sufficiency in this country. So having, for example, in the West Coast, an aquaculture school where you have the fishing sites across, that will also help us. So that what the sector is trying to think about and come perhaps during the mid-policy review is to look at these regional advantages and comparative advantages. Then we begin to see how we can implement those in the long term to be able to produce the desired people we have to achieve our national interest as a country. If not, we'll have a problem. So the desire was to really have Piran as an agricultural school. If students begin to shift to live there because of other things, it will take us to the drawing board and look at what could be done. Is it in our interest to have another school, in another senior secondary school? If yes, what kind of secondary school? Would it be science-based? Would it be arts-based? Or would it be technology in terms of Tibet-based or so? And that was what led to the construction of Sanyang, Gunjur, and Somita. We look at those regional dynamics to be able to inform our actions. But it's noted, we will see what can be done, but let's encourage them really. That is the idea. That is the idea. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to bring to the attention of Honorable Minister and PS from information that when we were negotiating the privatization of peace, that is including this and the cooperators, we had blocked 10 percentage point for social services. And that was intended, for instance, if the schools and other institutions would want to use it. So we have just written to you to kickstart that advantage so that you give us that advantage with the operators for our universities if they want to do online. And generally this issue of ICT that we are talking about, that 10% should be used for that purpose because it was intended for that. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to do the last place. They are new, so we're just going to allow them to say a few things and then if we have any sort of because you know we really run out of time. But again, it's important that we you know since they are here. Go ahead. Thank you very much.
So you also have students.
I don't know. I want
to also congratulate you and your colleagues on your appointment. Actually, our ministry is, well, the digital economy is new, but we have been around. That's the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure. And from the President's pronouncement, the Director of ICT, which was under the ministry now, is transformed as the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. So over the years, we've been doing a lot of ICT activities, as you are aware, in your last term. And among them, primarily is we have the ICT 4D master plan that was developed in 2018 to 2028. Right now, we are halfway into the plan. And that plan has about 9 strategies, you know, each of them are trying to address some of the issues that you raised. For example, connectivity issue, broadband policy, we had the cybersecurity policy, human development, because if we talk about ICT and adoption, they go in, the capacity and adoption go hand in hand. If you don't have ICT capacity, the adoption rate would be very, very low. For that reason, we had policies like, for example, the youth and women development empowerment policy, promoting technology like the STIs, because we know ICT is used in all these areas. I'm glad the Honorable Permanent Secretary also mentioned that you can't do anything now without ICTs. And then that's where, I mean, we are. So we're also glad with the recent decoupling of the 2 ministries, and that alone will give us a lot of spotlight. You know, ICT has been shadowed for a long time by information, which is a very important ministry. But as you know, we were just behind information and so on. So with this policy pronouncement, we receive it with joy, and we think it can actually put ICT where it is supposed to be in terms of government policies and strategies. And for that, also there are a lot of in-house keeping job that we're doing right now to structure the ministry and then, take us this new mantle and deliver up to expectation. So over the years, what is more prominent right now with the implementation of the strategy, we're also doing a very important task, that is the review of the IC Act. The IC Act, as you may know, was done in 2009. But we are in an area, ICT is one of the fastest growing and dynamic sectors, as you know. it changes rapidly, and the policy strategies, they also do the same. So for that being the case, we got the support from the World Bank, where we're doing the IC Act review, and we have gone far with that now. We received the report, and very soon we'll get the first draft of the act. And it is going to be a very modern act that will include, issues in terms of regulatory issues to manage the sector, which is really growing and in demand, because everybody wants to be connected on the internet. You go to the rural area, everybody, but there needs to be very good policies and modern regulatory issues that will take care of some of these things. At macro level, we also have some interventions that are coming up. Like, for example, we have one project we're working on, that is the Gambia Digitalization Project from the EU. It's a small grant we receive, and we also help in terms of the policies on broadband connectivity, and access to internet. So that one we started last year. Also, because of the ICT advocacy programs we had also, I think that's one of the reasons why we plan to write a cabinet paper to change the name of the ministry. But before we did so, the president, actually made a pronouncement. Give us our independence, which was very welcome, because we've been doing a lot of advocacies to put ICT on top there, as one of the very important sectors that can change the economy. And of course it has, because with ICT you can solve unemployment, you can make work faster, efficient, and reliable. You can list, and it goes on, and you can actually apply it in every sector of the economy: agriculture, education, every problem. You can use ICT to solve it, and we've learned that it's one way to leapfrog. And if you look at now the service, the amount of contribution of ICT in the service sector is increasing each and every day. We are putting a lot of money into even the money that government collects, just with in terms of ICT. Yes, close to $400 million. I think this next after petroleum. And that is just services. So I think if we put more effort and more policies and strategies, a country like Gambia, we can develop the capacity and even export it. We've seen in India, most of the programmers, they're Indians. And you look at the time difference with America and the European countries, but because they develop their capacities, they get jobs outsourced from the United States to those countries. In Gambia, with this proximity and with the language, we can speak very good English and all that. If we get the capacity, they can sit here and while working in other countries. Another milestone that we're doing at the ministry is the establishment and operationalization of the agency. There are a lot of ICT initiatives going on. Many institutions know that you need ICT to function. Recently, we had JRA is launching a new system to digitize. Next minute, now we will be launching a new system, and so on. And so all these public institutions are launching systems. No proper coordination mechanism in terms of how they're implementing the systems and what they do and so on and so on. So we needed an agency. And in 2021, the ICT agency was established. And now I'm glad to report that they also have started work. The board has been inaugurated, and now they are working on the remuneration for the Director General and to employ the Director General and then start work so that they can, work on the ICT issues. At a different level, you mentioned about the giving internet to schools and the capacity, and the senior PS also mentioned it, which is very good. And I think the only thing that is not happening is collaboration. But this capacity is there. Right now, we are using government capacity to even give internet to the Minister of Finance at Kuala, even also the President. And before they were paying Gamtel or QCell to give them internet. But now we've moved them to the GovNet, we call it. And now we're giving them government capacity for free. In a couple of years, we embarked on Land for MDAs, where we are giving all the MDAs fiber. We also embarked on, after the second phase was the connectivity, to give them internet from government capacity. So I think that shouldn't be a problem. And recently, we also have the wireless microwave that we provide dongles. Before it was limited because we had only few base stations around Combo. But now we're doing a second project where we're going to extend it up to Basse. So we have 4 other sites. And this can also increase the access to schools. Schools can connect on this platform for free, and they don't have to pay anything, and because of the available. So I think with collaboration and discussion, this can happen, and most of the schools around these areas could be provided with internet. I think the other